guys, thanks for joining. My name is Gilliam Elliott. I wanted to come to you today and go over some really important factors that patients want to know from medical tourism facilitators before partnering with medical tourism facilitators and before going on their medical tourism journeys abroad. Before I do go into the short points today, I do want to give you a little background about myself. I've been in the medical tourism industry since 2012. I've been in the healthcare industry since 2010. Over those years, I worked with countless medical tourism facilitators, clinics, governments, and travel agents, and basically anyone who's interested in getting more international patients. And through that, I've seen trends. I've had access to a lot of statistics, industry statistics. And so today I just want to bring some key points as a facilitator, what you need to bring to the table when dealing with patients who are looking to travel abroad. So I want to go ahead and jump right into it. The first topic is going to be hospital accreditations and staff. The second one is going to be how much can I save, right? Obviously, as you probably know by now, a lot of patients are interested in medical tourism to find out how much money they can save. And you as a facilitator, you want to communicate that to them when you're talking to them and you're having those initial conversations on the phone. Number three is going to be what is my risk, right? A lot of people want to save the money by traveling, but they're scared of the risk of traveling abroad. So it's your job as a facilitator to educate these patients on what their risks are, on what the rewards are as well. Also, the fourth one we're going to go over today is going to be doctor experience. These patients are obviously traveling to a different country. They want to make sure that these doctors are trained adequately. Even though they're in another country, they want to make sure these doctors adhere to a certain standard and that they can trust them with their bodies and carrying out these procedures. The next topic that we're going to go over after that one is hotel distance, right? What's the proximity from the hotel to the hospital or to the clinic, right? How far are they apart? The sixth one is why that we're going to go over today is why these patients need your service as a healthcare facilitator in the first place, right? That's something that a lot of these patients are thinking in the back of their mind. They're wondering, can I do this on my own? And it's your job to communicate to them why they need you and why your service is so important. Number seven, we're going to go over is my destination safe? Number eight is before and after care, right? A lot of these patients are wondering, what do I have to do before the procedure? What do I need to do after the procedure? So I'm going to go over both of these with you as well. And then the last one, that bring it all together, is recovery, right? They're going to, a lot of times you'll have patients asking about recovery time, what it entails. So I'll go over that with you as well today and explain that. So the first one is hospital accreditation and staff, right? So you as a facilitator, you want to work with hospitals who have certifications, and the most known certification, the most popular certification that most of us in the industry recognize is JCI, right? You want to make sure this hospital has a JCI accreditation. That just means that they've had a survey done on their facility, and that their facility excelled and they met the expectations of this accreditation company, and that's a good stamp of approval. That's going to correlate into their staff, because their staff also has to go through a certain program to make sure that they meet this company's standard as well. The second one is how much can I save on this trip? Now, this is where you really want to get people excited, right? A lot of times when you talk to patients, it's going to be their first time traveling abroad for medical treatment. So you want to get them excited, right? You want to let them know how much they can save, whether it's 50% they can save, whether it's 60% they can save, whether it's 70% they can save. And I gave a story just a few days ago about a patient who came to our website, did some research on different destinations, found out the patient was from America. She found out through the website that by going to Vietnam, she could pay $40,000 less $40,000 less than what she could pay here in the USA. So she got quoted $50,000 here, got quoted $10,000 in Vietnam. we connected her with one of the facilitators that we work with and one of the providers that we work with, and she went to Vietnam and she got a hip replacement and she saved that $40,000 savings. So it's things like this that get people excited, right? They want to know that they can save. They're going to get on a plane. They're going to travel to these different destinations. But that scenario it happens multiple times a day, all the time in medical tourism. But it's just examples like this that I think you should be able to communicate to these patients. And as you go on into the industry more, you have some of these examples of your own as well that you'll be able to communicate. The next one is what is my risk, right? These patients fear something going wrong on their medical trip, right? So it's your job to let them know what their risk is. And what I always say is that the risk largely boils down to the accreditation of the hospital, right? That's why you wanna work with a accredited hospital. So it boils down to the accreditation of the hospital. It boils down to the doctor's experience, which is our next point. It boils down on these two things. This is really what's gonna minimize the risk of the medical tourism trip. Working with the best healthcare providers and with the best facilities. That's what does the trick when it comes to risk, and try to eliminate as much as possible. But going more into doctor's experience, you really need to find out about your providers that you're working with and that you're partnering with and that you're sending these patients to. You need to find out, is this doctor an expert at what he does? How long has he been doing it? How often does he perform these procedures that you're sending this patient to him to get? Also, what's his success rate, right? How successful is he in this type of procedure? These are things that you need to know as a facilitator so you can communicate it to patients. Very important things. This eases the patient's worries as well and anxiety about the trip. If you let them know, my doctor has a 98% success rate with this procedure. He's been doing it for a decade. This is going to alleviate any anxiety or a large percent of the anxiety that these patients have. So this is your job. Your job is to educate the patients on every aspect of the trip and to organize every aspect of the trip. Which brings us to our next point, the hotel distance. This goes into your organization. This goes into you setting up this trip for this patient. When dealing with the distance of the hotel to the hospital, you want to make sure that it's in close proximity. It's in close distance to the healthcare facility, because you don't want to end up in a situation, God forbid, where the patient gets a treatment done, they go back to their hotel, they start feeling a lot of pain, and they really need to go back to this facility. It's not going to be a fun trip if they have to travel across a city to go to a healthcare facility that you set them up with. It's going to be very agonizing. It's going to be very inconvenient. So you want to make sure that they're in close proximity to the hotel. Something else you want to consider is making sure that the hotel can handle patients with injuries that your patient has or with wounds that your patient has after the procedure. So it goes into coordination, making sure that you have them in a great location. Which comes to the next point, which is why do I need a medical facilitator, or do I need a medical tourism facilitator? And the answer to this is, of course, they need a medical tourism facilitator, but you need to let them know. You need to present value on these telephone calls when you're talking to these potential customers of yours, these patients. You need to let them know how you're going to organize a trip, leisure activities you can set up for them. Different things that ease their anxiety about making this trip. Something else as well that you want to do as well, once you have converted this person into a customer, and now you guys are working out the details in regards to the trip, and to the doctors they're going to be working with. You want to make sure that you have somebody on staff that speaks this patient's native tongue, who speaks their language, right? It's not going to be very comforting if a patient is sent in the hospital and nobody speaks the same language as a patient. So this is your job as a facilitator to make sure that that's set up. It's your job to also make sure that there's leisure activity if the patient wants to experience different activities while they're in this destination. This is all in your wheelhouse. This is what you do. You organize, you educate, and you're basically a bridge between the patient and the doctor. Also, something else that's really important that I always try to make sure I tell all the medical tourism facilitators that I work with, just a little side note, is to make sure that when these patients go on this trip, you want to make sure that they have at least 2 telephone numbers for you if possible, and any other form of connection that they can have to you, whether that's email, whether that's Skype, whether that's social media. If something happens to this patient where they really feel like they need to get in contact with you when they're on this medical trip, it's your job to communicate with them while they're there. You want to be the first person that they speak to when they get off that plane in this new destination that they're going to, and you want to be the last person that they speak to when they get on that plane and they're leaving the destination. So you really want to be connected to them at all times if they need you while they're on this trip, and that makes them feel really good as well. And obviously, if you do your job right, they'll advocate for your company. They'll tell people how good of a time they had, and this is marketing and branding and testimonials for your company. So the next point is my destination safe? This goes into you doing your due diligence and your research on these destinations that you're taking these people to, and these locations, right? You want to make sure that that hotel is in a nice, safe place. The last thing that a patient wants to deal with is while they're recovering, worried about their safety. Next one we're going to get into is before and after care. They're going to want to know, and they're going to ask you, what do they need to do before the procedure? You want to coordinate with the patient and with the physician to find out exactly what they need to do before this treatment, depending on the type of procedure they get done. So, I mean, this goes into, is there any special preparation? Is there any special tests that they're going to need done? Do they need to take blood thinners? Do they need to change the routine of the current medication that they're taking? This all needs to be discussed with the patient before they get this procedure done. So you're going to partake in that conversation as well as the doctor. As far as aftercare, this is also important. You want to make sure that the patient goes to their primary physician once they're back in their home country. This is just so they can bring the physician up, their primary physician up on what went on the trip, how they feel, how their body's responding to the treatment, just so if anything does happen, the primary physician has an understanding of what took place on this medical trip. Also, something that's really important is to make sure or try to connect the primary doctor to the doctor overseas who did the procedure. That's also good, just so they have communication, basic communication with each other for any future reasons that might come up. The last one, we're going to bring it all together with recovery. This is something also that patients want to know. How long is it going to take before they go back into their normal routine? What can they do to assist in helping themselves, right? They want the fastest recovery possible. So they're going to ask you, they're going to ask the physician, and you want to make sure they have access to this information of what they can do to help themselves recover faster, when they'll be able to exercise, when they'll be able to lift and drive, and just basically get back to their normal life. And thank you so much for joining us.